Before the tour started, there were two different kinds of Rush fans. There were the ones who had watched the rehearsal footage, read every Geddy Lee interview, and arrived at the Kia Forum on June 7th ready to be convinced, open, cautiously hopeful, willing to give this thing a genuine chance. And then there were the ones who were waiting to be right. The ones who had already decided, somewhere deep in their conviction, that nothing, no amount of technical ability, no amount of preparation, no amount of genuine love for the music could make watching anyone other than Neil Peart sit behind that drum kit feel like Rush. 4 shows later, the verdict is in, and the results are more decisive than even the optimists dared to predict. After 4 sold-out nights at the Kia Forum in Inglewood, California, Rush sent a message to their fans on social media, a short message, direct, the kind that only gets written when something genuinely exceeded expectations. They wrote, "Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for making this week so effing amazing, for embracing Anika and Lauren so profoundly. Your steadfast support is what has made this a reality. We are forever grateful." That sentence, for embracing Anika and Lauren so profoundly, is the one that tells you everything. Not for accepting, not for being patient with, embracing. Profoundly. The band didn't just survive their first 4 shows, they delivered something that nobody expected to feel this complete. Let's break it all down. Before we get into the set lists and the fan reaction, there's a detail worth noting clearly. Anika Nilles was not the only new addition to this reunion. Rush also brought in keyboardist Lauren Gold, a highly accomplished New York-based session musician who has toured with The Who, Roger Daltrey, and a string of other major acts. Gold's role is significant because Rush's catalog, particularly across the later albums, is dense with keyboard and synthesizer parts that were always performed live through a combination of Peart's electronic drum pads and dedicated keyboard technology. Having a dedicated keyboardist on stage, a real musician performing those parts live, rather than running them off backing tracks, adds a layer of musical authenticity to the live show that serious fans would notice and appreciate. The message from the band after the 4-night stand thanked both Anika and Lauren specifically, and that pairing matters. This wasn't a stripped-down, bare-minimum reunion. Rush rebuilt a complete, fully realized live band, with every major element of their sound represented by a live performer. That attention to detail, that insistence on doing it properly or not doing it at all, is of course exactly what Rush fans expect from Geddy Lee and Lifeson. And in execution, across 4 nights in Los Angeles, it showed. One of the most revealing things about the Kia Forum run wasn't any single performance. It was what Rush chose to do across all 4 nights together. They didn't play the same set list every night, not even close. What they did instead was something that only a band with genuine confidence in their new lineup would attempt. They rotated the catalog aggressively, pulling from different eras, different albums, different corners of their 50-year discography each night. Night 1, June 7th, was the opener, the debut, the night the world was watching. They played it straight, delivering the iconic material that defined their legacy. Night 2, June 9th, they played 2112 in its entirety, the full album, start to finish. For any Rush fan reading this, you already understand what that represents: a commitment to performing one of the most technically demanding, conceptually complete, structurally elaborate works in all of progressive rock. Not as a highlight, as a complete, uninterrupted performance. Night 3, Moving Pictures in full, the album that contains Tom Sawyer, Limelight, YYZ, and The Camera Eye. The record that, for most casual rock fans, is the definitive Rush album, performed front to back, live, for the first time in years. Night 4, they dug into the vault, The Pass, The Anarchist, A Farewell to Kings, songs that hadn't been performed in years, tour debuts pulled out of the catalog to reward the fans who came back night after night. What that rotation demonstrates, beyond the raw ambition of it, is that Anika Nilles had clearly been prepared for more than a single fixed set list. She had learned enough of the catalog, deeply enough, confidently enough, that Lee and Lifeson felt comfortable changing the program night to night, pulling out songs on the fly, trusting her to execute material she may not have rehearsed as extensively as the core songs. That is not something you do with someone you're barely confident in. That is what you do when you genuinely trust the musician behind the kit. Of all the moments from the 4-night run that circulated widely after the shows, one stands above the rest. For Time Stands Still, Rush's 1987 song originally featuring singer Aimee Mann on guest vocals, the band brought Aimee Mann herself on stage to perform the guest vocal part, live in person, the way it was always meant to be heard. But the band's own message to fans after the run framed this appearance with a specific phrase that has to be quoted directly. They thanked Aimee Mann for joining them. Think about what that framing means. Time Stands Still is a song about the desire to freeze a beautiful moment before it passes, about loss, and the inability to hold on to what we love, and performing it live in 2026 with the woman who originally recorded it in a room full of people who all understand that the drummer who played on the original recording is no longer here. That is not just a concert moment, that is a piece of music doing exactly what the best music always does, naming something true about human experience in a way that no other language can. Multiple people who attended those shows reported crying during that song. Not sad crying exactly, the kind of crying that happens when something is both beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time, when you're grateful and grieving simultaneously, when you're watching something you love continue past the point where part of you thought it would stop. Neil Peart was honored across all 4 nights. There was a tribute video collage. There were moments of silence in the music. Lee and Lifeson have been consistent throughout this entire process that this tour is not a replacement of what they had. It is a continuation of it, with full acknowledgement of the loss at its center. The Time Stand Still moment, more than any other, captured that balance perfectly. Mike Portnoy, former drummer of Dream Theater, a lifelong Rush devotee, and one of the most respected progressive rock drummers alive, watched the first show from home via YouTube. And when he posted his reaction to Anika Nilles' Instagram, he didn't hold anything back. His full comment is worth reading carefully because it comes from someone who genuinely knows what he's talking about. He wrote, "You absolutely nailed it. I cannot fathom the emotions that you must have been feeling. Just watching on YouTube, I had goosebumps and tears throughout the entire show. You honored Neil, Geddy, and Alex, and the music and the fans with every ounce of your being, and I am so happy they chose you." He ended by saying he couldn't wait to witness it in person. When Mike Portnoy, a man who has spent his career studying, performing, and honoring the legacy of progressive rock drumming, watches a Rush show on YouTube and cries, that means something. That is not a polite social media comment from someone being supportive. That is a craftsman who knows this catalog at the molecular level saying, she did it. The broader fan reaction across the 4 nights tracked almost exactly the arc that Geddy Lee had predicted. The skeptics who attended open-minded were won over by the technical execution. The devotees who had already accepted her presence were rewarded by seeing her grow show by show. And the people who came in still carrying real doubt. Many of them left posting online that they hadn't expected to feel what they felt and that they were grateful they had come. The comment sections, the Reddit threads, the fan forums, places where Rush fans have always been among the most demanding and detail-oriented in all of rock music, filled up with the same observation in 100 different wordings. She honored him. She didn't replace him. She honored him. After the 4 Kia Forum shows, Rush was already back on the road. Their next dates were June 18th and June 21st in Mexico City, the first international dates of the 50-something tour, taking the new lineup to a fan base that had been waiting for Rush to return to Latin America for over a decade. From there, the tour heads to Texas and then continues across the United States and Canada through the rest of 2026. This is not a nostalgia run of 10 shows in familiar cities. This is a full sustained touring campaign, dozens of dates, multiple countries, an entire extended chapter of what it sounds like for Rush to be a live band in the year 2026. And perhaps the most significant thing about that itinerary is what it implies. Lee and Lifeson are not done. The secret experiment in Canada, now we have a real problem because we have a drummer moment, has fully resolved into a commitment. Not just to the Kia Forum, not just to one tour, to the ongoing, evolving, living existence of Rush as a band that still has something to say and somewhere to be. Anika Nilles, 4 shows in, is not the new drummer on trial anymore. She is Rush's drummer. The fan community has said so, the band has said so, and Mike Portnoy, crying on his couch watching YouTube, has said so. Here's what I think the 4-night Kia Forum run actually proved. It proved that the question was never really, can anyone replace Neil Peart? Nobody can replace Neil Peart. Nobody can replace Neil Peart. That question was never answerable, and Lee and Lifeson were right to say so for years. Replacement was never the goal. The question that actually needed answering was different. Can Rush exist honestly and fully and without apology as something new? Can these songs, built over 50 years, embedded in the memories of millions of people, continue to live in a room, played by human beings, without losing what made them matter? The answer, 4 sold-out nights in a row, was yes. Not a qualified yes. Not a for what it is yes. A full, unambiguous goosebumps and tears yes from one of the most demanding fan bases in rock music. Rush said it themselves, in 11 words that say everything. For embracing Anika and Lauren so profoundly, we are forever grateful. The tour has just begun. If you've been following this series, thank you for watching. What do you want to see us cover next as the 50-something tour continues? Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.